Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Fakhrazi bin Iskandar. So today I want to present to you about what is the economy and fiscal outlook for Malaysia in 2022. So through the analysis conducted in 2022, the economic outlook is expected to improve and will return to its potential growth trajectory. This is driven by support with a wider coverage of vaccination program, measures and stable domestic and foreign demand. Through revenue collected by the federal government in 2022, the estimate obtained is higher than previous year at 234 billion or 14.3% of GDP. This is also driven by the expected increase in revenue collection from tax to 171.4 billion through non-tax revenue to 62.6 billion. In addition, the total expenditure to be spent is estimated to be slightly higher than previously at 332.1 billion or 20.3% of GDP, despite the higher OE policy at 233.5 billion and BE at 75.6 billion. Furthermore, the government will also allocate 23 billion for stimulus program and economic recovery measures. Through the allocation is intended to support in programs and projects such as waste and gas subsidy. After going through consideration in revenue growth as well as expenditure requirement, a fiscal deficit of 6% whose value is only modest to GDP. However, it is not included in the debt service charge, which is 3.3% of the primary deficit estimate at GDP. This has prompted to federal government to be committed to provide adequate fiscal support policies to revitalize the domestic economy to return to growth potential. As such, fiscal consideration will resume which it will feel on more gradual trajectory and guided by a medium-term fiscal framework.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Muhammad Qayyum bin Madrazman. So I continue with the second question, which is how is budget 2022 allocated and where does the money come from? So like previous year, budget 2022 was developed with the openness of Team MOF in mind. This budget is the result of a series of on-the-ground interactions in several Malaysian states, including over 30 focus group meetings and discussions, as well as the study of over 1,100 memorandums and approximately 50,000 recommendations received through the dedicated budget 2022 webpage. The more important, budget 2022 was developed following 80 meetings with political leaders from all parties, regardless of whether they are in government or oppositions. This group shared ideas and pondered national concerns together, putting our political differences aside. In 2022, government will focus on building a complete recovery that includes all socio-economic groups of the country. In order to meet the difficulties ahead, efforts will be made to increase business resilience and the health system. Moving forward, reform tools will be triggered in order to stay up with the trend of a borderless world of technology while maintaining the environmental mission. So, where does the money of budget 2022 come from? There are 5 aspects, which is borrowing and use of government assets, income tax, non-tax revenue, indirect tax, and other direct tax.
Hi and Assalamualaikum. My name is Muhammad Adib Ilman bin Izani and I'm from class BA1115B. So today I will explain about cash and repayment assistance and subsidy. So cash aid for enterprises as well as a smartphone and gasoline subsidy for Malaysian are all part of the recently announced Pemerkasa stimulus package worth RM20 billion. Prime Minister Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin has already announced two sorts of financial support for the rakyat in the first 3 months of 2021. So, there are several initiatives that have been mentioned. The first one is one-off payment for those with affected incomes. Next is Penjana Kerjaya 2.0 SOCSO to include temporary and gig workers. And the last one is handphone subsidy is increased in Malaysia. Okay, next I want to list some strategies that are made of the government to increase economy in Malaysia. First one is direct cash assistance and welfare. Secondly is access to public healthcare facilities. And the last one is quality education for all. Okay, that's all for me. Thank you.
A total of RM400 billion has been allocated by the government for alien schooling assistance. In Tablet Budget 2020, Tukun Zafirul said RM150 will be given to each student, an increase of RM50 from the RM100 given before. He added that has been allocated to the Education Ministry, MOE. Tunku Zafrul said during the budget tabling that the allocation is equivalent to 16% of the total government expenditure. The Ministry of Education continues to receive the majority of the national budget. The budget for 2020 is more than the RM50.4 billion obtained by the ministry last year. Meantime, the government will offer extra reduction on National Higher Education Fund Corporation debt payment. Other strategy under the Education Ministry include the RM400 million allocation for the supplementary meal plan, which help ensure students obtain their routine nutrition food, and RM6.6 billion allocation for technical and vocational education training program, and an RM200 million allocation for public-private partnership, the National Dual Training Scheme and Industry Certification Program. In addition, the government has set aside RM1 billion for school restoration and maintenance. This includes an increase of RM140 million to the Malaysian Islamic Development Department to sustain tahfiz and religious school, as well as register pondok institution. From RM100 million in 2021, a further RM120 million has been set out for Tamil and Chinese vernacular school. Furthermore, the government will continue to renovate underserved school with an RM746 million commitment for the coming year. According to Tunku Zafrul, a large portion of the funds will be used to renovate underserved schools, including 112 projects in Sabah and 165 in Sarawak. The Ministry of Health will get RM32.4 billion for operation and development expenses in an effort to prioritize public health and create national resilience as the country enters an endemic period. This, according to Tunku Zafrul, is the second greatest allocation for that of the Education Ministry. As first step in this commitment, an extra RM4 billion will be granted particularly to maintain the agenda of managing COVID-19, including RM2 billion to support the vaccine campaign. A further RM2 billion will be provided to to improve the capacity of public health service facility, including the purchase of medicine, consumables, personal protective equipment, PPE, and health kits. To continue the fight against COVID-19, the government plans to get antiviral medication that have been shown to be effective against a variety of viruses, including COVID-19, most currently the national COVID-19 immunization program will be expanded to include the third dose of the COVID-19 vaccine as booster injection for all adults, as well as the continued immunization of children aged 12 to 17. The government has in deals to acquire 88 million pills, which is comparable to 140% of our population. This is enough to offer a third dose to all inhabitants aged 12 and above. Tengku Zafrud said this will cost RM6 billion. The government will prolong the term for lowering the Employees Provident Fund (EPF) contribution rate from 11% to 9% until June 2020. According to the minister, the effort will cost around RM2 billion. He went on to say that the government recognizes the financial restriction that people suffer as a result of Movement Control Order (MCO), particularly in terms of cash flow management. He stated that extending the term for lowering the EPF minimum contribution rate to June 2020 will put more money in the hands of the people. The government will guarantee 600,000 employment possibility to the Jamin Kerja Keluarga Malaysia project in 2020. With an allocation of RM4.8 billion, it will also maintain the employment incentive through the Jamin Kerja project, with a target of 300,000 workers and an RM2 billion budget to SOSCO. Under the scheme, the government will grant an incentive of 2,000% of the monthly income for the first 6 months and 30% for the next 6 months to firms who recruit Malaysians who have not been actively employed, subject to position paying RM1,500 or more.
Last but not least is credit where credit's due. Budget 2022 is pretty extensive. Every year, the national budget is very important to see the development of the country for the coming year. As citizens of a country, this presentation is very important, especially for those who are in the throes of life, especially in the era of COVID-19, which is increasingly having a detrimental effect of the population of this country. Therefore, the presentation of the 2022 budget, which took place on 29 October 2021, has showcased some of the advantages given to the people to make life easier for the people in this country. Among the budget issued by the government to the people are as follows, such as Bantuan Keluarga Malaysia (BKM), Yearly School Assistance, PTPTN discount, e-start scheme, motor vehicle lesson, and last but not least, assistance for the disabled. That's all. Thank you for giving your attention and have a nice day.